how much does it cost to raise one meat chicken in Hawaii? We're gonna go through the numbers. We're gonna base all this off of a batch of 350 chicks. That is our standard batch number that we get from the hatchery. So how much does it cost to get that chick from the hatchery all the way to a full grown chicken post butchering? What goes into that? So first we have our material costs. Obviously we have the chick. So our chicks run about $3.75 each. Then we have the feed. So our feed cost is our highest cost by far. Each chicken eats around 14 pounds of feed. And so for us, right now we're currently paying, with the feed plus the shipping costs included in the feed, about 80 cents per pound. So that comes out to around $11.20 per chicken. And then you have your packaging, which is, your bags and your labels. That comes out to about 51 cents per chicken. And then you have miscellaneous utility costs like propane and water. That's roughly about 40 cents per chicken. So just raw material costs, that comes out to about $15.86 per chicken. Now, labor costs, this varies a little bit, but I just kind of went off, like I said, a batch of 350. So for us, it starts off by picking up the chicks from the airport. That's about a 1.5 hour, job commitment for somebody. Drive down, pick up the chicks, bring them up, get them in the brooder, get them all set. So about an hour and a half altogether for that. And then you have your brooder care. So that's about 20 minutes per day for 16 days. And then we have the labor of moving the chicks from the brooder out to the pasture. And that's about a 2-hour job. Then you have pasture care. So pasture care for us, we move the chickens every single day, feed them and water them, and then come back in the afternoon, feed and water them again. That's about 30 minutes per day off of a batch of 350 for another 35 days. And then pre-butchering, we have the labor that goes into loading the chickens into crates. That's about another 2 hours right there. And then you have your butchering prep. So that's us getting all of our, butchering set up and prepping all the materials and everything, getting everything all squared away. Another 2 hours of labor there. Then you have your actual butchering day. So for us, that's, usually we run about a crew of 10 to 12 people. But for this, we'll just say it's a crew of 10 for a 7-hour work day. So that's another 70 hours of work. And then we have the labor that goes into our sales. So we do a 4-hour sales window, but you have setup time, tear down time, all that stuff. That's usually the 3 of us for a 7-hour day again. That's another 21 hours of work right there. Then you have your post-butchering, post-sales equipment cleanup. That's about 3 hours. So all in total, you're looking at about 124 working hours for a batch of 350 chicks. Okay, now let's divide that by 350, and that comes out to about 21 minutes of labor. 21 minutes of labor, we pay all of our employees $25 an hour. That's what we consider a livable wage here in Hawaii. So if you take that 21 minutes of work with the rate of $25 an hour, you get $8.75. So $8.75 for your labor costs per chicken, and then you have $15.86 just material costs per chicken, brings us to a grand total of $24.61. Now, we retail our chickens at $7 per pound, and they average around 4 pounds a bird. So a 4-pound bird is going to run you retail about $28. So that only leaves us with a margin of $3.39 per bird. All those numbers right there don't even include any losses that we might have along the way. We usually lose anywhere from like 7 to 10% of a batch along the way. We raise them for 7.5 weeks, but you know, you'll lose some in the brooder. They're just weak chicks, and sometimes they just end up dying. We obviously still have predators out here in Hawaii, so we have mongoose attacks and feral cats that will get in and kill some of our birds, unfortunately. And then there's just health problems too, where you'll lose some along the way as well. And all of those numbers reflect our bottom line as well. So just some stuff to consider, like, you know, you never make it throughout a whole batch of chickens without losing any. It's a part of life. And when you increase numbers, then you increase the likelihood that you're gonna lose some, but also something to consider in the overall numbers on raising meat chickens, not just here in Hawaii, but in general. So that's just a quick breakdown on raw material costs, raw labor costs. And we just felt like it was important to show everybody what goes into raising these birds. I understand that some people think that we charge too much and that it's out of most people's price range, but we wanted to kind of educate people on all the labor and just the sheer numbers that go into producing pasture-raised chicken here in Hawaii. And it's a lot. And that feed cost is by far our highest cost, and we're working to try to get that down, looking at, almost double to over double the price just for the feed, because we have to pay for that shipping cost. And so that's just something that you can't avoid out here. There's not anybody that's, growing large amounts of grain, and so we have to get that imported. So this is just a quick educational video to explain all of our numbers, and we're going to do a follow-up video on how to maximize getting the most out of a whole chicken, and that'll be a follow-up video. But for today, that's just what we want to show you guys. Thank you very much.